what's the, while we have, oh, it's 7 o'clock actually. Is Britt on?
Yeah.
I'm on. I'm just about to pull up to my house and run up the stairs. So, but I can still manage the meeting.
We'll wait. We'll wait till you get to
Yeah.
the top of the stairs, then we'll call to order.
Yeah, you can tell us, John. Did they? Is it catastrophic at the community center, or is it fixable?
We're hoping it isn't, but I'm worried that it is. We'll see.
This happened during the movie 2 weeks ago. There was a plumbing problem. They had to close the bathrooms downstairs.
Do any of you folks with historic knowledge about that building know what happened to the service line when the building was remodeled? Do you know if it was replaced at that time by any chance?
I think Dawn said she's had problems with it ever since. I don't know if it was replaced then, but I know it was very close to failing 2 years ago, and they were able to root it out. I think they're running on borrowed time though.
One more
Thank
thing
you.
for you, John.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wow.
I parking right now. I have parallel parking, unfortunately. But I'm still happy to roll call if you guys at least want me to get started and we can start on the minutes.
You can parallel park and roll call at the same time.
I can.
Okay.
I'm mastering multitasking working for the town.
Okay,
well,
go
good
for it.
lesson there. Yeah, go ahead, call us to order then, and we'll do the roll call.
All right.
It's
So
7:03.
we'll call to order at 7:03. Yep. Vice Chair Reese.
Present.
Commissioner Mahold.
Here.
Commissioner Duggan.
Yep, here.
Commissioner Dye.
Present.
Commissioner Glasser.
Yes, I'm here.
Commissioner Pinzner. Maybe not on. I did get a text message from someone, I'm not sure who it was, saying they wouldn't be here. Let's see, Mayor Pro Tem Sterling, is she on? No? Okay.
Nope.
And let's see, Commissioner Cornell.
He's here, but
Roger.
I didn't hear him.
Yeah. I'll nod head.
Yep. Okay.
All
Can't
right.
hear you, Roger.
So let's see. Do we have enough to vote?
Let's see. 1, 2,
And
3,
Dye's on.
4, 5,
Yep, we got 5.
6, 7. Yeah, we got quorum.
We got 5?
Yeah.
A
Okay.
couple of those are numbers.
All right, so
I called
then-
in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Perfect. Then I will note the few absent until they pop on.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes? Is there anything there that anyone saw that needs to be updated or edited?
I did make a numerical, there was a number mix up just to document that.
How
Not
did I
sure if
miss
you
it?
guys have more.
Where is it?
I believe it went from, in the numbers, it went from 4 to 6. I don't think I put a 5 in
Yeah,
our
I see.
timeline.
Oh, there it is.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice catch.
Yeah, I caught that right before the meeting.
Okay. Well done.
Were there any others?
I didn't see anything else.
Britt, this is Linda.
Mm-hmm.
And that was on December 11th. I was not present.
Oh, okay. Perfect. I will add that. I'll make that correction.
Thank you.
Okay. I would accept the motion.
Yeah, then with those changes, I'll make the motion to approve the December 11th meetings, subject to those changes.
Second.
Great.
All righty. Commissioner Cornell? Yes. I'm going to take that as a yes.
Yep.
Commissioner Maholt?
Yes. Roger, we're not
Vice
hearing
Chair
you.
Reese? Oh, you might be losing me. I'm
Yeah.
connecting to Wi-Fi.
Okay.
It's not you. We're having a hard time
One-
here. Roger's mic is, he's got some kind of problem with his setup.
Oh, you're talking to Roger.
Trying to
Okay.
talk,
Yeah.
Roger, but you're not coming through. I vote yes for the minute.
Okay. Commissioner Dye
Yes.
will abstain. Commissioner Glasser, and has Commissioner Pinzner joined yet?
No.
Have I missed anyone?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Oh, okay. You got Commissioner Dye, right? Yeah.
Yep.
You give me, Brett?
Oh, Commissioner
Commissioner
Duggan, I'm
Duggan?
so sorry. I was like, I know I missed someone. I see you right here. Sorry, I'm like walking up the stairs.
He's on page 2.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. All right.
So Roger, your mic you're unmuted right now, but you also have to set up this to use your computer audio for the mic. Try and talk right now, Roger. Say something. Yeah, we're not hearing you, buddy.
We can't talk about the comprehensive plan without Roger.
Luckily, I talked to him earlier, so I could probably fill in a few of his notes. But
There is a way to call in and change your audio to call in. If you select, Roger, the little down arrow by the microphone,
Mm-hmm.
I think you can go to more audio settings. Oh, no, wait, that's not it.
Yeah, I was having trouble earlier as well, but the one option that worked for me was, Roger, press the option button and the space bar button at the same time, and that should unmute your mic.
option and
Option
space
and
bar.
space bar.
Oh,
Option.
you can have
space-
it call you. If you hit the 3 dots next to the camera button where it says more, there's a button that says call me, and it will call you with the audio from the call on your phone.
Nice glasses, Brett.
This is the close-up version of Brett. Nice.
You are muted.
Yes, you are.
Brett's muted too.
Okay, Roger, one more thing for you to try there, brother. Go look at the beginning, at the top of the packet, and it says phone conference ID, dial in by phone. You can just call in on your phone. We don't actually have to see you. You can call in on that and then put in the conference ID with the pound number, which I actually did that also because I have a lot better success with my phone as opposed to just the computer audio. So that might be the way to go. Okay. Well, I think that we probably ought to move on to action items while Roger is working on that. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. First off, let me see if there's any public that wants to comment on non-agenda items. If there's anybody online that would like to make a comment on anything that's not on the agenda tonight, please raise your hand and we will put you on for 3 minutes. You would need to give your name and address. And it looks like Commissioner Pinzer, I'm sorry, I messed up your name.
Pinzner.
Thank you. She made
Here you
it,
go.
so she is here now.
Perfect.
Sorry, folks, I just got back from the community center.
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't have your cell. I need to get your cell after this.
Problem, my bad too, for not checking email beforehand, but I'm
No
glad to
worries.
be.
Okay. I don't see any member of the public that wants to comment on a non-agenda item. So let's move on to our action items.
Alrighty. So our action item tonight is the appointment of the chair and vice chairperson. Let's see here. So as you'll see on there, oh, am I echoing? The current chairperson is Steve Williams and the current vice chair is Jim Reese. Appointments are made by nomination and confirmed by majority vote of quorum present. I have all of your terms expiring listed on this AIM, which you guys have probably already looked at. And I did attach your bylaws. So the question before you guys today is who the PC wants to appoint to serve as chairperson and vice chairperson. And then I did want to make a note there, if you guys had time to review it, there was a letter from Chair Williams there. I'm happy to read it if you guys want, but just let me know.
You know, for anybody who might be listening or not have access to the packet, and
Yeah.
that would be good. I would appreciate it if you'd read that.
Absolutely. No problem. Okay, let's see here. Chair Williams said to the Planning Commission members, sorry, I cannot attend the PC meeting as I'm on my way to Antarctica. It's my last continent to set foot on, so I have to go while I'm in good health. Anyways, one of the items upcoming agenda is the election of PC officers. Due to a lot more expected travel this upcoming year, I've decided to step down as chair of the PC and request not to be considered for chair for 2025. I feel that in order to do a good job as chair, I won't have time or the in-person presence necessary to commit this task. However, I am willing to serve as vice chair if the PC wishes to nominate and elect me. Also, in my absence, I wish to nominate and vote for Jim Reese to take my place as chair when the vote comes up. He has served well as the vice chair, and I feel he certainly is qualified and up to the task. It has been my pleasure to serve the PC for the PC chair for the past 3 years, and I appreciate and thank all the PC for the support and backing I've received. I'm looking forward to a busy and productive upcoming year for the PC. Regards, Steve Williams.
Okay. So I will tell you, I am interested in throwing my name in the hat as the chair of the Planning Commission, and I also put a vote out there for Steve as the vice chair.
Is Steve willing to do it?
How about now? Can people hear me now?
Finally, Roger, yes.
We can hear you, Roger.
Okay. I connected through the phone.
It works great.
All righty. Yes, Steve, certainly, I think his letter, plus we certainly spoke to Steve, and he would wanted to be vice chair if we so
Great.
desired.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Do you have any other thoughts?
Say
I
again.
think both you, Jim, and Steve are doing a fantastic job. I think you're due for a promotion, Jim.
Oh, Jim, I think you're muted. It might have been your phone. There was an echo. I might have accidentally unmuted you. Let me know.
Do we get a motion to nominate two?
Make the motion, Roger.
All right, I'd make a motion to appoint Jim Reese as chair of the Planning Commission and Steve Williams as the vice chair for the coming year, 2025.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay. Here we go. Commissioner Dye,
Yes.
Commissioner Duggan,
Approved.
Vice Chair Reese. Okay, I don't know what's going on. I'll keep playing around with it. Commissioner Pinziner,
Yes, with gratitude to their service for their service.
Commissioner Glasser,
Yes,
Commissioner Mahold,
Yes.
Commissioner Cornell.
Yes,
All right. We've got Jim Reese as chair and Steve Williams as vice chair.
Onward.
Congratulations, Jim.
Do we know on the 2025s who intends on staying and who doesn't?
I haven't reached out to anyone yet. That was actually something I was going to be doing here soon.
Mhm.
So yes,
It's-
not yet.
When do we
But if
make that?
anyone wants to stay,
Did we deal with it in April?
June 1st.
Okay.
Yep.
I want to stay.
But anyone who sees theirs coming up, feel free to reach out to me if you're not interested in re-upping or all that jazz.
I just heard a re-up from Tim.
Yep.
I
Okay.
also would like to stay. I don't know when my
You are here for a while. You are not up till 2026. You're stuck with us.
Stay. Good thing I want to stay then.
I want to stay too.
Great.
Jim, just really quickly, we couldn't see what you wrote on the message because you're blurred in the background, so we don't know what you were trying to communicate. We cannot hear you.
Yeah, I
or
was
read
gonna
what
say, I
you were
just
writing.
allowed your mic, so I don't know why it's not working. You might have to call back in if it doesn't.
The data pipes are frozen.
I know. I don't know
Now we
what's
lost
going on.
Chair. So Jim, we've lost Jim.
All right, he
Oh, yeah.
will pop
Thanks.
back on here.
Wow.
Well, I guess I will get started, since we've kind of gone through that while he's getting back on. We don't have like a presentation for you. As you all know, we went ahead and emailed you the draft, and
Me?
really just going to start kind of with like we did last time, some of that like back and forth discussion, keep it
Can you hear me
going.
now?
Yep, we can hear you.
So my phone number ends in the number's 35. You muted me.
Okay.
So don't mute that number. That's my phone.
I won't.
All right. Sorry. Off to an inauspicious start here.
You're good.
Okay. So please continue on with the comprehensive draft plan. Thank you very much for your confidence in voting me as chair. I promise you I will come prepared to every meeting and do my best to serve you and the community. Onward.
Awesome. So yeah, I'll go ahead. Aiden, I don't know if there's anything you want to kind of say before we get into the discussion piece of this. Otherwise, we can just start bringing it around for anyone who has feedback.
One suggestion on page 17 under acknowledgements. Miranda was here for a lot of the formulation. I think her name should be in the masthead.
Yeah, I am absolutely okay with that and would love to honor her contributions in that way. Is there a title or anything I should put next to her name or just include her under the town staff?
I would
list?
just say, yeah, I would say town staff and through 2020, June 2024.
That's good. So I wasn't 100% sure on how this was going to work. Was there going to be any kind of an actual presentation, or is this going to just be feedback from us to you?
Yep, we can. I do not have a presentation prepared, knowing that getting through the draft was already, a big task on both of our ends there. So happy to just take feedback as it comes in. I think important to note that we are hoping to get sort of a vote of confidence to move this forward, but we certainly can make adjustments to make sure that this is the most accurate and well-supported planning document that can go before the board. So certainly not pencils down, but hoping there's no huge changes.
Your photography is beautiful. In January, it's very nice to see when our town had flowers.
Yeah, Peter provided a lot of these photos, so
They're gorgeous.
thank you to Peter.
Well, I have two requests for you. One I think will be pretty easy, and I learned this the hard way today because I was planning on being there in person, and I tried to print off some of the maps and a few of the documents, and I kept getting the wrong page printed out, and I realized it's because the first 2 pages of the presentation are not included in the page numbering. So every page number is off by 2. So when you go to print out the map. You got to add 2 to it, but that seems like an easy fix. I'm hoping on the final copy we can actually include that acknowledgements page and the title page and get the correct numbers on there. And I think a lot of people would like to be able to have this as a separate document. I asked this to be sent out to the Planning Commission because it's a lot easier for me to look at it on multiple screens and compare back and forth with just the document, not actually in the PC packet. But the other thing was you gave a presentation a few months ago to the public to get public feedback. I came to that meeting and it was a PowerPoint presentation, and it was condensed, and it had a lot of the info on, like it had all the objectives on one page and different things like that, and it was a great document for reference. I would love it if you could send that to Britt and we could get that sent out to the entire Planning Commission, the PowerPoint presentation that was given to the public, because there's a lot of these things where the objectives go across multiple pages and things like that, and it would be nice to have those 2 back and forth to be able to I just thought that was a very nice consolidated presentation, and this is a very in-depth document, so I think that if we use this to reference back to talk to people that have not been initiated or reviewed the whole document, that would be a good one for us to be able to reference.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. We'll make sure that that's updated with any like tweaks to the final strategies and objectives, but otherwise, yeah, that's a pretty simple, straightforward way to look at it.
Yeah, I just thought it was, I've been wishing I could get a hold of it since then, just because it was one of those things where, my wife is the former town manager and I wanted to talk to her about some of this stuff, and man, it was just, I would have printed the whole thing off and had it to be able to reference. Even though the other thing I will say is that the shading, I learned the hard way also today, when you print in color, really eats up your printing cartridge because all of the pages have a background shading on them. So I don't know if in the final document, if you can remove that. I don't know if it's necessary. But I went through about half a ink cartridge today, printing off things.
Yeah, we can. That's Jim. I love this feedback. It's very practical. So absolutely, can make a fully white background, fix the page numbers, and get you that PowerPoint. I think also in hindsight, we could have also put the draft up on EngageNet, and we can make sure that this week or early next week that is up there so that you can just view it as a PDF as well.
That would be great. If you would, I'm going to tell you, if you could put that and the PowerPoint presentation up there, if you should have that one. I'm going to tell you, I don't know how much has changed from the one that you did a few months ago, but I thought that was a pretty good complete document. And there's a lot of people that aren't going to dig into reading, 130 pages, 150 pages. So
yeah,
okay,
yeah, absolutely.
With that, those are my little tweak practical details, and I will turn it over to substance stuff from anyone from the commission that would like to add.
Should I go?
Yeah,
You can hear me, huh? Okay.
we do.
We can hear you.
You guys won't believe this. I have 2 short comments.
Amazing.
Who's laughing?
We are all laughing.
Well, the one is, it's an ongoing one. We're really with Britt, and I'm looking at the notes that I sent to John last month, and they're really in here. I think it's from a previous discussion, and it's a very small thing, and maybe it's an ongoing thing. It was actually my discussion or questioning about the open space. And it's clearly marked down as and just open, well, I don't have the map open right now, but there are parcels of land in town, which would be at the Mud Lake annexation open space. And there's also one in the, say, Caribou Ridge open space. And there's probably some other ones. We discussed the one right there on by Chipeta Park too, where we were trying to say which areas we're searching for places for future development on this town property. That is it, part of the town's open space, park, whatever you want to call it. It's not parks. And Britt and I, remember, we were supposed to get back in November. We've been trying for time, And I've even emailed you to try to set up a time to, come down and at least spend an hour with you. I think that's how much it would take to kind of go over it. And I possibly could be wrong, but the issue is that we need to, before we go forward saying, well, here's an area for development, we should know if they are open for development right now. So the two examples that I worked on, I know about, is the Caribou Ridge. That's where we had an annexation. There was a PUD subdivision, 32 acres of property are annexed, 32 homes go in, and through the zoning PUD process, the lots are much smaller than 1 acres. So we have whatever it was, 20, let's just say 20 acres of developed property where the homes are. And then you end up with 12 acres of open space. So the question really is, and this is, I know Jennifer would understand this. So, and they're designated at that time, they're actually the original annexation and the original development was actually private open space by those developers. And then later on, they didn't want to deal with it. And when all the beetle kill and the forest mitigation came through, they didn't want to deal with it. So they gave it to the town as open space. But that's basically the process. The exact same thing is with the Mud Lake annexation. There was set parcels all designated, all over town and all over the north of town, where we have the bus barn, and we have the Mud Lake, we have the school over there, and the Caribou auditorium. So all these things were designated through a annexation agreement. It's all in the agreement, and the open space is defined through that annexation agreement. We actually had an election. The election is actually for annexation, not necessarily for okaying every parcel and every agreement, but it's just to okay the annexation agreement. Excuse me. So I just, and I don't really have a dog in the fight, but it's just that before we go on and designate some of these large parcels, the other one was, which we just worked on this year, was open space there with the Mary Wingate properties, and so we can't have those just as saying these are towns spaces that can be developed. These are actually preserved open spaces. So I'm not challenged one way or the other. My question is, or I feel that we very much should settle this question now rather than say 2 or 3 years later when we say, oh, let's develop this stuff. And then there's a challenge or whatever. So now's the time at this point, while we're even talking about should town open space be developed or can even legally be developed. So that's my question. And that's where I'm at. And I just feel like it's better to raise it now than later on. And I think I pretty much went through exactly, especially in the two properties. Another example would be the Mary Wingate property that we just did within the last year. And that kind of come down, that's preserved town open space. It should not be developed, or we shouldn't, put it down on maps as percentage of property that could be developed in a future date. So, now my only comment that I really have, and I kind of got into a little bit, I'm sorry Nicole's not here too, because in some ways I need to apologize for our last meeting. I kind of Steve gave me a last minute phone call. I won't blame it on him, but it was just about, we were into that should or could little syndrome, which we actually clarified with the 3 mile plan. And the, you know, I was just kind of got a little bit on a rant there about, you know, should could in the comprehensive plan should say we could do these things as opposed to we should. And I've seen where some of that's been corrected. And the one issue I had was on the flume, the future land use map. And I guess I kind of went down the same idea that, you know, we were saying that this should be the way it is. And I think in some ways I took it, you know, probably wrongly, that this was the future zoning map and it's actually a planning tool. So after, you know, months of reading and looking at it, I realized that it's more of a planning tool. So the only thing I wanted to add, and possibly one word to change it to try to make it more generic, possibly whatever you want to call it. But and I don't know what page that is, it's the Flume land use map, the heading.
Page 32.
Okay. And the opening sentence, you know, the opening sentence says the future land use map Flume is a critical component of Netherlands comprehensive plan, serving as a visual guide for the town's long-term development strategy. The Flume reflects the community's vision for growth in land use and preservation. And I guess when I read that, I just, you know, I guess that when I say it's the community's vision, I think Netherlands, especially if you actually got 100 people in the room and said, what's your vision of Netherlands? We probably would get 100 different opinions. And so, you know, I guess that's why even that opening statement, even going back to the last meeting, it was like, you know, whose vision is this? And so this just a vision that was put to us. So today I just, you know, I've read and read and read, and I think about it, and the entire project, I mean, the entire idea, I think actually I embrace, and many parts of the flex, which Nicole challenged me with a month ago, is I totally understand that these areas where things in the future could be looked at. So I would ask that sentence, the Flume reflects instead of saying the community, that the Flume reflects a vision and a roadmap for development. And then that's all, just changing the town's vision to a vision and roadmap. And that, to me, then I think it becomes more, can be embraced by everybody. And I don't know if that's true or not. It's just my own personal, one little thing I had. So that's it. That Flume is a roadmap to the future. That's
Roger.
basically all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, John, I see your hand is up. Feel free to jump in on, especially on that first question.
Yeah, I think I just want a couple of things. And Roger, I don't disagree with you at all here. I think we need to be careful about how we talk about these things, because it really does matter. Like you said, this is, you know, when you look at a document like this in the future, it's important for us to remember that we don't think about intent. We don't think about what we talked about in this meeting. We think about what the words say. I also think it's important to remember comp plan is not a regulatory document. It's like our best kind of position that we can take right now. And so it is important that we have this conversation and really make sure that that language is correct. You know, I think on the annexation question, I think it's really important that this document says that the town considers annexations that are beneficial to the town. Like an example would be the town's water intake. Makes very much a lot of sense to have that in the town limits, but it's not currently. And those are things like, I think it would be good for the document to support, like to say, you know, the town, if it's in the town's best interest to annex or something. And I know we've had that conversation. On the Flume map, I'm just wanting to think about the language, because it does say, in terms of the community vision, this is like the result of some, you know, significant engagement over the course of a year here. And I want to make sure, because it does say the growth or the community vision for growth, land use preservation, and it provides a framework for making informed decisions. And so I'm hearing you say that similar language, but maybe we just need to make it like I do think I really want this document to be reflective of the community engagement. I think it's important that it's reflective of Planning Commission ultimately, but also what the community did to get to this point. And then I guess the only other point I would have is when we think about the town-owned properties, and I understand what you're saying there, and I know there's a complex legal framework there, and that's one of the reasons that project hasn't come back yet, is because a lot of the information about those lots is in our brains or in our neighbors' brains or stuff like that. And so we've had to go through a very complex process to make sure we understand the entitlements on each property, what they're intended for, make sure like that it's still being used for the intended use. And that needs to be balanced with our need for development of things like affordable housing. Just to be perfectly honest, if we can support less dense affordable housing development that serves our community, and there is a town-owned property that it could be used for, that might be something to consider. And so I hear you on Wingate, I hear you on all of it, but I guess what I'm asking for is some flexibility so that we can have those conversations from a legal perspective and say, look, here's our properties. We're going to establish which ones are open space, because it's really what this project has evolved into, is fully understanding the encumbrances on each property so that it will be used for its intended purpose in the future. And we have a better, more clear picture here at Town Hall of what that looks like in the future. And so I guess I'm posing that more as a question. Is there a way to balance those two needs that we have here? And like, in terms of this language, is there a way to balance that this is kind of reflective of that community engagement, but we also want it to reflect your goals, and like just kind of making sure that we remember that this is not a regulatory document at the end of the day?
Well, yeah, I'm slightly confused. Well, there's two different things. So, John, I guess I brought up the open space thing, so because I actually thought that it had been dropped, so I had no idea that it's an ongoing discussion. So if you guys are still working on it, that's what I'm asking for us to continue the process.
Yeah, it needs to come back to you guys. We're just trying to wrap it up.
Yeah, okay, fine. And so and to me, that has nothing to do with proving this. And basically, the other one is, and if you guys say no, then I'm definitely going to vote to move forward on this thing. I just felt that idea about, that I thought it was more of a, I can't put it in the English language, but instead of saying the community's vision, just a vision and a roadmap. But yeah, it's certainly okay if that was just my one little personal opinion. If that's if that's nothing that anybody else will embrace, then I'm totally okay with the words that are there, because I totally understand it's a comprehensive plan and it's not necessarily binding. And the rest of the flume, as I said, the more I read it and understand, how breaks out the areas of zoning, and it's totally fine. I think it's actually, I would, if we even got into a little more of it, I think there's some other areas maybe we ought to have flex. But overall, it's very good. That's why I have no issues with it. It's just that one little word change. I thought, for me, change is, more of an overall substance as opposed to, when people would say whose vision, but it's just words. So I'm fine.
Well, Aiden, do you think there's a way to balance that maybe a little bit in the language, just to make sure we kind of because Roger, this is your document, the planning commissions, and you guys have to be able to work with it. So
when I talked with Roger earlier today, I was having a hard time understanding where that was, what he was trying to get across to us last month. And he kind of explained it to me a little more, basically like, use an example, and if I get this wrong, just jump in, Roger. Okay, we're looking at, for housing goals, maybe changing density in certain zones. And let's say, we want to change the density in Sunnyside, and this says that this reflects the community's vision, but not everybody in Sunnyside were involved in the engagement process of this. And so he didn't want to feel this was, something that the majority of the town was involved in, and yeah, they want more density, or yeah, Sunnyside were involved in the engagement process of this, and so he didn't want to feel like this was, you know, something that the majority of the town was involved in, and yeah, they want more density, or yeah, they're on board with this plan, or we're on board with the future land use map. And so what he had suggested when we talked was, you know, looking at maybe changing that to, you know, the town's roadmap or something like that. But honestly, I think, Roger, you pretty much said, you know, this is not a, you know, this isn't like an op order for the military where you're going to follow it to the letter. This is a guiding document that we're going to use and, you know, it's going to change with the environment and what we're doing going forward. So, you know, if you don't have a problem with it, I think the language is sufficient, but if it's something that you got heartache with.
If I haven't been able to explain with stuff that, you know, opposed to, like you say, vision to roadmap, then yeah, maybe, so that is fine. Yeah, there's the big task will come in this next year as we work on trying to do the zoning to say how we're going to work to make this vision work and this roadmap work. That's the where the pavement hit or whatever, the road hits the pavement or whatever they say it is.
Rubber hits the road. I agree, and one of the keys is going to be to try to have as much community engagement as possible for these meetings when we start talking about zoning changes or density requirements and things like that. I don't know exactly what the answer is yet, but somehow to try and let people know, hey, you know, this is what it is, and you bought, and it was this one thing, but if you want to have input, you know, now's the time, you know, in these next few meetings to come and get your say in that, because, you know, you might end up and see some tiny home villages next to you here and then be mad later.
I have a clarifying question. So also about the land use map that's very much related to what we're talking about. So in the existing land use map and current zoning, we have a low, medium, and high density residential. In the future land use map that is all condensed into neighborhood residential, is it the intent to consolidate all of those into one zone? Because I'm looking at the wording on page 32, it kind of conveys that is the intent, and I'm not sure that's the actual intent.
I can check on that.
Yeah.
I am not sure off the top of my head with the land use specifics.
Gotcha.
It looks like neighborhood residential is trying to, I think, better reflect, I think, the reality of what's currently there and what makes sense there in the future. Knowing that the community was open to some more density, but making sure that it was in the right place.
Yeah.
But you're right that it does condense a few things,
Yeah.
but still leaves it open for all of those, you know, existing land uses to still be conforming.
Yep. It's so kind of like Jim and Roger was just talking about. Sunnyside and Old Town have significantly different setback zonings, different needs, expectations of the communities, and like, I don't know, to just say that non-residential uses like churches, schools, daycares, and public spaces are also appropriate in all neighborhood residential. And I realize that this is a framework, not the final word, but I think some caveats should be put in place that says that no, it's not necessarily the intent, if this is true, to consolidate all of these into one, because that seems like a pretty big change, if I'm reading it correct. Yeah.
Yep, I will try to clarify the intent of the neighborhood residential category. Is there any other questions on other categories?
No.
My comment on what Mike about, but I think that's very similar, and that was certainly what I was trying to express last month. Was it, and I, well, maybe what to me then, that's why I said this is not a zoning map. So we need So maybe it needs to be clear, like I said, the road map, whatever the English language is, you know, Jonathan, maybe you help us out there, that that these will be two distinctive documents. Our zoning map and our change map is our zoning map. And that if you look at this land use map, the flume, you know, I think you could take, it's certainly what it's taken is the high density, you know, it's taking these neighborhoods, it's actually combining two, the higher densities, the 8,000 and 4,000 zones together to say that these type of uses, you know, these uses are appropriate here. And then also later says going through a process, a zoning process, doing whatever changes you need, using the zoning code to make these changes to this larger overview map is the way I looked at it. And maybe that's what needs to be clarified, that this was a you know, a larger land use type map, but it's not the final zoning map. And they will always be a separate.
I like that, Roger.
Yeah, Aiden, I think that sounds simple too.
What is, which piece, Roger, is it that makes you feel the distinction between this map and the zoning map isn't clear? Is it the word land use? Is there a specific point where you feel that distinction gets blurred?
No, I'm totally okay with that. I just needs to be that, and this needs to be, well, it's the one, Mike's the one who brought it up, and you like you're connecting. So is this going to be the future zoning map was the question. And I think very clearly, this is not the future zoning map. And that needs to be clear.
Right. But I'm just asking, which is the word that we could change to make that more clear? Is it that this map is being called land use? Like if we were to revise that, could that maybe help?
No, it is land use. No, it needs to be in the description, you know, that, well, I think it's clear. Like I said, it's a vision. Well, my term roadmap to me, it's a document that they use going forward. But, well, I guess, you know, we have some people can work on that to make this. But I mean, I think that's what it needs to be clear that, and I think that was part of what we did a month ago. Was Steve called me up and saying they have this zoning map that, you know, going forward. And I think
part of my confusion of like thinking it was a zoning map, and just based on what you said now, Roger, I didn't realize until now that I'd made that assumption that it was a zoning map when it's not. And I mean, I think it's just because we've looked at zoning maps that look a great deal like this, and similar color scheme, and all of that. So in my mind, I was thinking this has got to be a zoning map.
And I agree. That's what I thought a month ago.
So I think just like this is not a zoning map, or something that's obvious. I don't know, changing color scheme or using some like striped bars on the highlights, just to make it visually obvious that it is a different category of map. But yeah, and I think that would totally solve the quandary that I was looking for.
So maybe our consultants there just need to, you know, come up with a paragraph of words there, just one little word, you know, showing you this is not a zoning map.
Yeah.
It's future menus.
Yeah. By the way, a side comment on the maps. Last time I'd brought up the color scheme of the red, green colorblind thing, and it looks so much better. Like all of the images, that it looks really great. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, we made sure to put the maps through a colorblind tester, so the colors are now
fantastic.
You know, compliant in that way. And I think on this conversation as well, and to Jim's point about printability and viewability, I think we'll probably make a packet of these maps as well that's separate from the full document so that people can reference those and go back and forth. Not quite related to what we were just talking about, but just a thought about what else we can create from this.
Yep, great.
John.
Aiden, I know I asked you this, and this is not the most critical thing at this moment, but it just came up. You guys built fully ADA check the PDF before it's delivered, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So for this group, Colorado passed some more stringent ADA accessibility requirements for documents. Originally that was just for state level, and it's kind of trickled down to more local level. So we will either do kind of a plain text version in Word so that a screen reader has no problem, and or make sure that this PDF hits those benchmarks of having, like right now the images don't have alt text. And so things like that we will add for this final deliverable.
And I could see how the confusion is between the zoning map and the land use map, because the categories are similar for most of it. But yes, I don't know what the answer is on that, but other than for us all to have a good understanding that what zoning is separate, and then if people are asking as we're talking about it, that we can draw that distinction. Unless our contactors have an idea. Do you have an idea? Has that come up before while you were doing these? Because I'm looking at the two on two different screens, and man, they're really similar.
Yeah, I think it's actually positive that your future land use map is somewhat in alignment with the zoning, because you eventually would want to see a lot of that be in alignment. So the fact that they're similar adds up there, but we can certainly add a sentence about how to look and review and utilize Flume in like future development considerations, and making sure that if a proposal is put forward, that it would need to, jump through quite a few hoops before it would go against what's designated in a future land use map. So that's kind of how it can be used to evaluate proposals, but we'll make sure to add a sentence or a short paragraph in there. I think there's bits and pieces kind of already on that page, but making it really clear.
Is there a definition of the two, and I missed it? A definitions page?
At the top of that section, let me see what page it's on. The start of chapter 2 does have some clarifying language on. Yeah, so on page 15, it says, the existing conditions and key issues, that zoning and land use section talks about those distinctions. But you're right that it's not near the future land use map discussion, so.
Perhaps a definition of, with them side by side,
Mhm.
The two definitions, differentiating the two, with a couple sentences would help. I just
I like that idea.
through that and missed it.
Yep. No, it certainly is all captured in that page 32, the third paragraph. It says the town officials planners, developers are going to use this for rezoning requests. It explains it all right there in that paragraph. It's just that, you got 100 pages, and boy, if you miss that paragraph, you can just go down the rabbit hole that I went down.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Why we have to have so many meetings. Any
Yeah,
other
thank you
feedback?
all. Yeah, thank you everyone for taking the time to really read through it, understand it, and digest it. Britt and John, I think we will have some follow-ups on those open space parcels and how they're discussed here.
Could we
anything else
say
from the group?
Could I just one more quick thing, just for
Mhm.
planning commission in terms of direction? I was thinking about what Roger said, because I fully agree with you, Roger. I think you're right, and I think we got to be clear here. But what if we said that we have been investigating something to the effect of we've been investigating the town-owned parcels to fully understand their encumbrances, or something to that effect, and there may be, or something in the mainland. There may be opportunities to look at whether they may be used for other purposes or whether they need to be preserved for open space. Do you think that would kind of get at what you were saying? Like, is that a workaround just to say, like, there is a little bit of question, just to indicate in this document, so it's not unclear that they are not necessarily being targeted for development. It's just we're trying to understand that question.
That was for you, Roger.
Oh, the question's to me? I feel like it could go either way, and I just had the history, and I mean, I could even tell you, well, very quickly, we actually tried to have a couple of houses built there as part of the 18 units that were built. We actually went to the county and said, hey, we need to, build a couple more houses there, because we were the only town, because we were in debt with the Mud Lake thing and the paving the road and doing all that stuff. We were actually still in debt. And I actually went to the county, the commissioner. Anyhow, I requested, hey, is it possible to get 20 lots over there? And it was actually Samaya saying, I would welcome the 2 lots right next to me that are that open space there as you drive in the school road. Let's add 2 lots and sell them, and we'll have $200,000 and we'll all be all whole. And I, and I actually approached the county and they said, no way, and that was the end of the story. What they actually did then was to allow us to, they released us of the property at where the town shop was, because that was going to have to be town, low-cost housing. And they said you can sell that, do whatever you want with it. So that actually was part of that agreement. So I actually had that history. That would have been about 2007, 8 that we went back to the county trying to amend the agreement. But I'm totally open. My only conflict is just process. Is what that's what I'm number one is process, and I just feel like it should be settled sooner than later. But if we can't do it sooner, then we'll continue trying to see what to do. But I personally, each property will be able to be developed. If it should, that's fine. So I don't, as far as the actual development, I'm almost done. I'm 76 years old. I don't, it's not an issue with me. It's just an issue that we shouldn't be going down that road and then get to that point and then all of a sudden someone challenges it and we go, oh, we did all that work for nothing. So now's the time to do the work.
So
Roger,
like,
I'm just to be specific. Please. Oh yeah, sorry. Just quick clarifying. Just to be specific, we're talking about the map on page 19 that identifies the public undeveloped parcels. Those are the parcels we're talking about.
Yes, that's correct.
But I think to Roger's point too, the last thing we want to do with the community is tell them that super valuable open space that was preserved as open space is going to get built with some super dense housing. I don't think that's where we're wanting to be here. It's just like looking at opportunity, if there's opportunities, great. But I think you're right. I think building trust in this document means, taking promises of the community seriously. And, we've been doing that work with this legal review. And maybe that's like what Aiden, and that's kind of what I'm thinking, Aiden, is if we just had a conditional statement that we're, something to the effect of a lot of things in NATO and are passed down word to word, and we're just trying to make sure we understand the legal framework for these something like that. And maybe there's an opportunity for development, or what I'm trying to say, like just make it a little bit conditional there.
Researching.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
that.
Absolutely. We can add a footnote or an asterisk on that. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Hey, I wanted to ask, did John or Britt have any feedback that you wanted to share with our SE group friends, or for the benefit of the rest of the commission?
I do. I want to thank Aiden specifically. Aiden, we have been, I'm sure it's just like any process. This is a big process, and I know it's a lot to shepherd, and you were working with us on the multimodal plan too. And we appreciate your time. We get so busy around here, and you've been so flexible working with me and Britt. And I just want you to know that we appreciate you and everything you've done for us over this last year. I think it's turned into a really good plan. I really want to thank Planning Commission too. I know it didn't feel like it at the time, but bringing forward a draft and then modifying it and just really making sure we got the language right. And especially Roger, I think your comments were super helpful in making sure this document is a Nederland document. I think that's what we're really trying to do, and it shines. And I really want to thank you for that. I think we've collaborated on something that can really help us set a good foundation for the work of the Planning Commission for the next several years.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
You have anything to add, Britt? Anything you wanted to say?
No, I didn't have anything additional to add. I think I had directly reached out to SC Group on the last draft. So nothing at this time. I'm gonna give it one more look through though. So
Oh, sorry. Go for it.
Go ahead,
go ahead, Elizabeth.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah. You're good.
I just want to echo thanks to Aiden as well. The comments I felt that were incorporated, the comments that I made last month about distinguishing the public civic space and public park space and just being more clear about that. I really felt heard, and through this whole process felt like there was a real effort to address the things that we brought up. And so the only comments I have are truly editing just to make the document a little bit more consistent if you want to, but otherwise I'm perfectly happy as it is. And that would be from page 32. The order of that list, the following future land use categories are, and then listed. I would just put that in the same order as the legend.
Mm-hmm.
Just to make it really kind of clear that this is referring to this map. And so, having that starting with the downtown, or what I mean, in terms of just because I think this is the more fixed image. And then as also, if you want to be consistent, I don't know if you want to keep the public civic and the parks and public, or if it's okay that these now read public and then parks and open space, which I think sounds good. But that changed from the earlier maps. And then the only final comment is the triangular lot. I would try to somehow identify it if at all possible. Like, I think you're referring to this green one at the top that kind of looks like a Smurf hat. Is that the one? And if so, I don't know if there's any way to label it or name it or make it so that it's clear what that triangular lot is referring to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. We'll look at that.
Okay, otherwise it is really, really incorporated everything I've heard us discuss, and it looks great. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you all. And thanks, John, for jumping in midstream here and really making sure that everyone was up to speed with the process and making sure we got great feedback. So it really takes a village.
I agree. I had one more thing that I don't know if it would be the SE group or it would be the town. I don't know if the SE group has the ability to do this, but man, some bound copies of this for our use, for the BOT use and the Planning Commission use, would be very helpful, just to have it as something to refer to, because this is going to be a document that we're going to be working with a lot going forward over the next few years. And I don't know, I just like printed documents to be able to refer to. It makes it easier for me. And I would hate to have to print this all out myself.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we, within our contract, we can look at the expense budget and see if, if a quote from a local printer or a printer. Oh yeah, John, go for it.
I can pay that. Just let me know. We'll do it like an ad. We will pay what it takes to do that.
Okay.
If there's a good printer you find.
If there's money left, great. If not, great. But yeah, I think that would be a great way to finish this out, is to have a product in hand.
Other comments from anybody else who's on tonight?
Yeah, this is Linda. I think the comments we've had so far have been very beneficial. Having a printed volume like you suggested, Jim, would not only benefit the BOT and the Planning Commission, but if someone from the public wanted to request to look at it at the town hall, it would be available there, and I think that would be very beneficial if there's questions with that.
Yeah, good point. Maybe the library too.
Right.
Yep.
So what's the next steps going forward? I think that, you know, I talked with Steve a little bit before he took off for his voyage. I want you to, if you pray for him to get there safely, because his trip went through Houston and they canceled all flights through Houston because of 4 inches of snow they got there yesterday. And so his big epic adventure started off with a flat tire. So we're hoping that he's going to get back on track. Luckily, he told me he was wise enough to build in a couple extra days before they had to meet the cruise ship down that they were going to spend in Argentina. So hopefully he's on his way right now, but he didn't have any thing to add to this. I'm very happy with how the document has turned out. I don't have the benefit like Roger and Steve of been around the last time that we had this process, but you know, I feel like it's been inclusive. I think you've done, you know, I've been to, I'm going to say probably half the events that you had, the open houses and things. And, you know, unfortunately, we're a town that, you know, we have about 5% engagement from our community, but those 5% are really passionate. And so, you know, those that, you know, have heartache later, you know, the answer will be, hey, you know, next time come to the meeting. Get your input. But I'm just wondering, what are we still looking at trying to have this done? Can this be moved up from March, or is this the final time we're going to talk about this? I'm not sure who to ask that directly.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you want town to address that, Aiden?
It feels
I would
like most
say
of the comments have been really, you know, concrete at this point. Nothing super left open for debate.
right. I do feel that our team has the capacity to make the requested small text edits and organization and consistency edits. So I think similar to last time, we can create just a one pager that says, here's what we heard from you, here's how we addressed it in the document. So there's a record of where that all changed. But I think we can get that turned around very quickly and can get this on track for BOT consideration. So that's where I'll stop and have Britt and John chime in.
Yeah, so I think, and John, you can take it if you want. I saw you about to talk.
Britt, you're the planner, so I'll just say, okay. I'm just excited to get this to get working on the, we've got a lot of work that comes after comp plan is adopted. And so I just want to support that process, but I think Britt is your person here. So I'm going to let you run the show here.
Yeah, I think so. Right now, what we had it slated for February to go to the Board of Trustees, because we've been receiving really good feedback from you guys. So I think the goal would be, if you guys are comfortable with Aiden making the changes and maybe us having, I don't know how we would structure this, so I might lean on John or Jennifer for this, but recommending with the changes you guys had tonight, we send it out to you all, that we could take it to the Board of Trustees on the 4th. If that feels too soon and you guys still want more time, then we can push it out to the 18th. But I don't think there are many changes here. So I think we should keep it moving so that town staff can start using this thing. But I'm happy for if there are concerns with that, or, not comfortable with that direction, then just let me know so we can get it slated for a more comfortable date time.
Do we need to vote on this? I noticed this is a discussion item.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So I think so is like we need a recommendation, and that's something that I didn't consider tonight. I had kind of forgot about it because we've just really been digging at this. So if you guys are comfortable, we could change this to an action item with those changes. But if not, then we can push it. So it's entirely up to you guys on comfortability wise.
Well, my thought
Jennifer,
would
do you
be
have? Oh, sorry.
whatever. Yeah, well, and I don't know necessarily the procedure, and it comes up every 10 years, but it seems like actually having the document out there for a bit. And, I guess I would assume, I think we even did, but I don't know if we had to, that we'd even have a presentation where they actually have a public hearing, so there's actually a meeting, here's the document, take any final comments, almost like we just did today, but it just seems like we ought to have a one final meeting and final comment from the public, and then recommend turn it over to the Board of Trustees. And I realize that would be probably adding another month, but maybe it's not a bad thing to do to, have that document out there instead of just saying, oh, we changed the agenda from discussion to thing, that definitely could, get some people giving us a hard time. So you're probably talking 2 or 3 weeks. So it'd be, our planning commission meeting, and then they would adopt it the first meeting in March. The Board of Trustees would adopt it. And it's actually sitting there, and available for a quantified time for people to actually talk about it and say, oh, you guys just didn't do this again. Change an agenda item to, to finalize a document. So that would be my input. You're talking about
Who said that?
That's Tim.
Okay.
Can
I
I
just-
can I chime in
I
just
would
quickly
kind-
here?
Good point.
I agree as well.
So state law would agree with what Roger said, and we really should have well, we do need to have a public hearing on this and have a formal adoption. So I would recommend definitely the public hearing is required, and would recommend approval by an ordinance, or not ordinance, I'm sorry, resolution of the Planning Commission.
there you go.
Perfect.
Would we,
So go ahead.
be able to send the draft that we are in approval with the fixes onto the Planning Commission to give them a chance to look at it at their meeting in February, just so they don't have to, I'm going to tell you, I'm a little worried that there's somebody on the Planning Commission or on the BOT that's going to say, yeah, we don't like this and we want this and this and this changed at the 11th hour. I don't know how that would work, John.
Well,
I
these
guess,
drafts
Jennifer,
are also on the website and this, but maybe it's pushing these, if that's correct, maybe pushing these out to some of the boards, if that feels comfortable to you, or saying, hey, check this out, might be a
Well, I
good
think-
step.
the other thing is this is a document of Planning Commission. This is a process of Planning Commission, correct? And so the only action the board needs to, Jennifer, the board doesn't have a hearing, right? They're just approving it. The action.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the board doesn't have a hearing, but it does say subject to the approval of the governing body.
So they would just approve the comp plan as recommended by the Planning Commission. I do
Yeah.
think like one of the things I would like to build in, recently we've been talking a little bit about work sessions with the board, and they're willing to do that. And I think what I'd like to do is be able to show them a final draft of this document, and that could maybe even happen in advance of you formally approving this document. I don't think there's any reason I couldn't do that on February 4th or 5th or whatever that Tuesday is, if that's a direction that we have from you. What that would do is allow them to kind of be introduced to what is in the plan right now and where we're at on this final revision. But I would, in my role, say that it is a document of the Planning Commission, and this is the document that has come through this community engagement process that's taken well over a year now, and that Planning Commission is charged with the authority over the planning and zoning chapters and that kind of message. So that would be my recommendation as approval based on yours. And I know that in the past there's been some confusion on how that has worked, but I think what I'm saying is that we would be very strongly advocating for the proper process here. I think it's important to note Planning Commission is a body of the board, right? And you're appointed by the board. And it's very important to remember that the board is elected to represent the interests of residents. And so we want to really make sure that we're balancing both priorities and that the board is included in this, but it is important to realize that you are the body that is given this authority to build this plan. So I think what we could do is that if we had like an information item or a work session in early February, once these changes are done, I know you guys had been talking about like a joint work session, but we could invite you and have a little presentation about what the comp plan includes and, just make sure everybody's on the same page about what it is. And that would kind of prime the pump for once you approve it, for them to approve it too. So I think that's kind of one of the things I'd like to do with process here is really make sure that from a staff perspective, we're bringing these forward in the correct way, just so that it's done the way it should be done. Not that it wasn't in the past, but just that we really dedicate ourselves to process.
Did you have something, Tom? No? Okay. I'm fine for that. I wonder though if a little more time, if we could look at the February 18th meeting. If we're going to go and actually, the planning, i.e. me, is going to give some kind of presentation about this to the BOT. I wonder if, and I know that has, probably has some impact based on how jammed your February 4th and your February 18th BOT meetings are, but I would request a little more time. Our PC meeting in February is the 26th, which would be 8 days later after that if we presented it on the 18th. And then that could be approval by us. And then their first meeting in March, they could approve it. Is there a reason why we're trying to get it done before then? And if there is, I'm open to it.
I think the real reason is we need to keep this moving. I can't do any strategic planning with the board until it's done. And so if it is feasible to do it reasonably, I would really like that opportunity to keep projects moving in 2025. The other thing for you all is that we've been talking about you doing a code review, chapter reviews, so that we can determine how we might start looking at some of the potential for code revisions. And I think we want to get to that work too. There's also other code issues to address, just thinking through the 2025 work plan. Every, meeting we're spending on this is another meeting we're not working on that. And so if we're at a general consensus point where we can do that, I would just recommend that we take the time we need, but also we just kind of keep moving a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
and my
I
only
wanna be sure.
concern is budget. That's my only concern. Is making sure we still have the funds.
Okay. I want to be sure that the idea is not that Jim's going to get up there and go through this 135-page document for the BOT, because I'm definitely not going to be able to do that.
You got this, Jim.
We'll take care of you. We'll make sure that it's not like that.
Okay. That's where that PowerPoint presentation would be extremely helpful.
And Aiden, do we have another meeting with you or?
Yes. So to Jim's point, that PowerPoint presentation can absolutely be used for that purpose. And then John, we do have a meeting, you, Britt, and our team on Monday at our normal time.
And you could come, do we have one scheduled or budgeted for you to come to the BOT too, or?
Yep. Yeah, we can come to the BOT.
Okay. Yeah. So we can have Aiden there kind of guiding the way, and then you can be just the look what we did. It's amazing person. Vanna White.
We will give all credit to the SE group and Aiden.
And I'll point all the questions over to you.
No, definitely not. Well, that's why it's important. I feel much better. Yes. The 4th would work great then, as long as we have a subject matter expert there. to answer pointed questions because I've listened in to enough BOT meetings to know that sometimes questions come out of left field.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have. Does anybody have anything else to add to this?
Move on.
Okay. And we don't ask for public comment on discussion items, right? I don't think we have any members of the public here. All right. Well, thank you so much for your dedication and hard work. You guys were extremely professional, and I appreciate all the flexibility that you've had in adopting this and trying to make this fit for us. And we will soon be out of your hair.
No worries. It's been a very fun process. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you, Aiden.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. So just because I'm new, since I'm the brand new chair, it says under discussion items, May Gerald public comment, which I read, but we don't need to discuss that in our meeting, do we?
No, it's in the packet for you guys to read. So she didn't request that I read it to you. She just requested that I add it and share it with you all.
Mission
Okay.
accomplished.
Yeah. If that's the case, then can we move on to town informational items, town staff reports, whoever's leading that?
Yeah, so I can kind of share, as if you guys don't know, the ice rink is open. Disco nights have started. Recommend you going to check it out if you haven't already. There will be a disco night this Friday for you, those of you who don't know. You know, our streets and our parks teams are staying pretty busy right now with some of the storms we've had come through. And they're already kind of working on new like summer developments that's going to be starting here soon. Just getting prepared for it this year. We also had our new parks employee, full-time employee started. I do not remember his name off the top of my head. John probably does. But he started. Yes, and he is great. Seems great, eager to work. As for my world, and Cass, we kind of share a staff report now. We're really working on. I'm gonna have a lot of code stuff coming to you guys this year. So next meeting we're gonna have some housing code. Like I would like to work through with you guys. We're also going to have building code updates. We're going to be updating from 2018. And so that will go before the Board of Trustees. So I've already started doing outreach to a lot of our builders in town to get their input and really start doing this work ahead of time. So that's a big project that's going to be coming this year. Let's see. John, can you think of any off the top of your head? I didn't have time to go through the full report.
A couple of things just to kind of be thinking about. One thing we'd like to bring back to Planning Commission soon is the moratorium that we place on natural medicine usage. The moratorium was approved by the board last night. And I think what we've got to do next is, like, as we start seeing what the regulations from the state look like and these different things, really kind of revisit that conversation and think about our zoning regulations related. Britt and I have been working on a new calendar that kind of goes along. I don't know if you're all familiar with the forecasting document we use for agendas, but what we'd like to do is start building another kind of complementary document that's like a project tracker so that we can start looking at some of the things that you guys have talked about doing just to keep us on track. You know, we've had some conversations about light meeting schedules, and sometimes we might be able to sneak some of this work in to start just looking at different things that have come up over the years. So that tracker, it's not fully ready for anybody but Britt and I, but I think as we develop it, we want to share that so that it can start, you know, you guys can see where we're at on progress and we can start planning our meetings accordingly. I think that's the big one. In terms of just other town things. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I can tell you, John, when we had that on the Board of Trustees, extremely helpful. I miss it over here because it lets you know every time you kick a can down the road, what the cost is, what else is getting delayed.
Yeah, it's definitely something we want to be thinking about. Just kind of general town updates. I've got a couple I'll just share with you. One is the rink is having the best year it's had in years. The ice is working this year, which is great. It's already generated over almost 50% of the revenue it generated all of last year, which is something good for us because it lets us keep working that thing. We're going to keep working on it over time. Today we had interviews for a volunteer driver position, and I'm very excited about that. We had several qualified applicants, and that's a program a long time in the making. So I'm hopeful that maybe we'll have somebody on board next week to start that work. And if you don't know, it's a grant we got from Boulder County through Dr. Cog that allows us to create a volunteer coordinator position to allow to create this volunteer driver program for folks that can't get around town and around the region. So that's a kind of an exciting one that we've been working on since I got here. That's almost across the finish line. A couple other things we've been looking at sign code, Britt and I, quite a bit lately, and just looking at what works, what doesn't work. We had a pretty busy board meeting. We had a water wastewater rate study presentation if you missed it on Tuesday, which is always riveting, but it's very important. And I think the really critical thing is that we've got a lot of infrastructure improvements that need to happen in town, and we need to find a good way to pay for them. So that was kind of the big kind of point of the BOT last night. If you guys have any other questions about operations or things that are happening in town, I'm happy to answer them.
I had one question for you. Looking at the police report, it looks like we've really cut down enforcement money, right? It's showing up in the number of court dates and sharp drop in court dates. Is that a policy change or what's going on?
That was one of the major issues in the budget last year is that the sheriff's offices, they are working on policies that are different than what they originally told us when they were budgeting for enforcement. And so it's not a terrible thing from a cultural society standpoint, but when we're contracting with them, levels of service has been something that we've been really talking about, and enforcement is one of them. And that is something that's been kind of going on that we've been managing. Of course, sometimes you don't have people that need enforcement, and that's a factor. But we did pay when we went down to the 50% contract, which basically means that deputies will be in town. They just are allowed to respond to calls like different priority calls outside of town during the daytime. So we don't always have somebody here if there is a call like in ward or something like that. But what we did is we reduced it to 50% coverage, so they are allowed to do that. But at the same time, we doubled extra duty coverage. And in theory, over the long run, we should see budget. We kind of cut our budget numbers that were given to us in 2024 significantly, but we should be able to eat the 2025 guides. And so it really kind of matters like on what has happened with skiing, and we just need to continue managing the deputies. But on that note, there is now official Town of Nederland deputies, and they just kind of give their information out. That'll be in the paper soon, and we'll have it on the website. But they're engaging in this like community policing effort, which is really what I think folks in Nederland want. And we're really thinking about what that means for us and what that definition is. And, you know, is it walking around? Is it going to the school? Is it coffee with a cop kinds of situations? And so if you guys have ideas about what you'd like to see, that's something that we're engaging in right now with the sheriff's office.
Great. And then it looks like we were able to keep our co-responder on for another year. What's the cutoff date for that?
Right now, I think it's December 31st. But in really good news, they reopened the funding that we have for that program, which we didn't expect or anticipate. And so it sounds like I'm going to be able to get about $55,000 from the state to subsidize our costs this year and apply for full coverage of it next year. So it sounds like our budget hit from that program is not going to be as extensive as I originally anticipated in the 2025 budget. And in the 2026 budget, we may have grant coverage for it. So that's a really good thing. And we're going to try to get that one knocked out.
Hopefully it doesn't have to go for plumbing at the community center.
Yeah.
That's great, John.
I had a couple of questions. I saw in the staff report under the licensure portion that they were dealing with a STR owner who's had 3 violations for failure to renew, and they're in the process of revoking the license. I had some questions about how long that process takes and what is enforcement or the penalty, how is the penalty enforced if it turns out, okay, this person just says, yeah, whatever, pound sand, we're just going to keep operating on Airbnb. What are you going to do about it?
Well, we have some power, so I can talk you through this one. This one is something I've been dealing with very closely over the last few days. But essentially, there has been ongoing problems for the last 2 years with this particular unit. Starting on June 20th is when the renewal was supposed to happen in 2024. That was the first contact point when we told them that the application was not complete. There was a total of about 8 letters between June 20th and January 14th. Pretty regular, explaining that we needed to have these things done, various pieces of the application. This is a tactic that's commonly used out of a state STR because they don't want to show driver's license, or they don't want to show 2 forms of ID, or whatever the criteria is that they can't meet. And so it's a very common tactic in these kind of processes. On January 14th, we sent a final letter stating that the owner needed to come into compliance, or we'd be sending them to district court. If they go to district court, the penalty in our code says $2,600 a day of continued violation, and we track it. So we know like how long it's been advertising and like all those things. So there's a fairly significant fine. Now, this being Nederland, there's 2 things that control here. One is that we're a small community and we're all neighbors, and we want to, the important thing is compliance, not fighting a fight. And the second thing is that the honest truth is that I mean, honestly, that's what it needs to be. If we can come to a compliance situation, that's the right thing. So what I have done is been working with this person to try to bring them into compliance, and we have offered a pathway to them to come into compliance within the next 2 weeks. And if they do so, then they would just need to continue renewals over, as long as they operate the SDR. To come into compliance, it requires either proof that they are off all listing platforms, or paying, at this point, it's just fees. They've actually completed the application. And so they just need to pay their fees and fines and remit taxes on time, and then we'll be in good shape. But I think ultimately what it boils down to is do you want to fight somebody and, create a long-standing legal problem for the community, or do you want to, get the compliance that we're looking for in the first place? And I think that's kind of where we're going on this one. So I think it's kind of coming to an end. But there is some teeth in the ordinance that you guys created. It is a challenge. These, I guess, from an administrative capacity, finding, it's like a game of whack-a-mole on these things sometimes. And so there's a lot of work that goes into finding them and working with these folks and making sure they understand that when staff is giving a permit, it's a duty that's required. They have certain criteria they have to meet. We don't pick who we give permits to. It's just, do you meet the permit requirements? If yes, then here's your permit. And sometimes that's difficult because people perceive the town coming after them. So there's a lot of just conversations that go into that. But at the end of the day, I think we've got this one turned around to where it needs to be.
Good.
Okay. So ultimately, it's going to be financial penalties that will be leveled. There's no ability to padlock their house or something like that. Huh?
Right. Or at least currently.
Yeah.
John,
I
if
don't
I
think
can
it's a bad
say,
idea. Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to say I really want to applaud your diplomacy and your approach, and I think it's the right one. And the tempered tone hopefully helps resolve some of these things. So well done if that follows through.
I've been telling our staff, and Britt especially, Britt gets a lot of shots coming at her way just because she's telling people the rules, and that's never the fun job to be the banker in Monopoly. But at the end of the day, we got to take people who are loaded for bear for their last fight with City Hall, and or Town Hall. I say city too much, but with Town Hall, we got to turn that into just the first conversation, and that's what we're trying to do. Like, we have a small community, and what makes it strong is if we work together. We don't need to be nameless and faceless over here, and so we're really trying to build that culture here. And Britt's been doing a great job on that. She's been really, quarterbacking a lot of these conversations. So
this board spent a lot of time last year on animal issues. And I noticed that we've cut the money for enforcement. Does that mean it's falling back in Britt's lap to get those calls when we have animal issues? I saw there were 4 calls in the police report.
I bought her one of those little dart guns that knocks the dog out just so that, she can go take care of business.
Good.
But I think it is a problem. That's something we need to address. One of the things with this sheriff's contract is we're anticipating 13% increases across the board, if not higher, every year. I'm also anticipating Longmont going into Weld County dispatch. They're currently paying $457,000 of the total dispatch cost of the municipalities, and when they leave, we're going to have to pick that up. And so I anticipate that where our costs right now are like in that 1.3 million range, which is a little bit maybe it's not quite right with the way extra duty works. We'll see. That's kind of my forecast. We're going to be exceeding that in a few years, and that's not a sustainable model for us. At the same time, I'm not 100% sure that we can have our own marshal again. Like, I know, Tom, you were right in the thick of that when that was all happening.
Yep.
There's a lot of costs that go into running a police department. There's a lot of costs that go into setting up a police department. And this is one of the conversations we really need to have in our community is how we handle this. You could stop paying the sheriff. They'll still respond to P1 calls, but animal control, these other kind of other calls are going to just go by the wayside. Or, maybe we find a way to have a marshal that kind of subsidizes their services and gives us some more powers. But one way or the other, we've got a pretty big resiliency problem that we got to deal with, because when you look at what caused our budget problems in 2024, it was pretty strongly in the BCSO contract area, and just these escalating costs that we've got to figure out. And, I think all of us would agree we have to pay police officers a living wage. We have to make sure they're safe and have good equipment. It's important. And it's just a matter of how we do that. And, we've been talking about it as a wicked problem. Like, it's not like, they're just trying to pay for, give people a living wage in Boulder County. And that's a hard thing to do. I totally get it, but it's a challenge.
Okay.
All right, not to prolong this too much longer, but I had a couple more questions under planning. I saw that the report from Britt about the EV charger, level 3 charger is going to go away, and talks about that the grant has been refunded. I just wondered what kind of impact that was on the town, if you'd counted on that money, and now suddenly we have to, even though budget is not our purview, I just wondered if you would mind sharing that with us.
Yeah, no, we're getting the refund back. It's just the charger is not online. So we submitted a PO today. We did have to do some extra money to get, we have an extended warranty that it's now falling into. And they're sending one of their individuals up, but we do have to kind of take on that cost, which it's pretty minor. So they've refunded us because we thought it was up. They are very well aware of the situation that's going on. But we are still in the process. Technician should be coming up within the next 2 weeks, realistically, and then that should be up and running. So it's not hurting us grant wise, but it obviously, it doesn't make it fun to want to pursue this grant again with this company. So just a lot of learning lessons, and for the residents, I feel bad because it's been a continuation. But we're hoping to have it live before the end of February. So yeah, we're still in good standing. It's just our reports we might have a longer reporting period for our data usage since we don't have this quarter right now. We're not going to end up having the quarter that fell into it. Go ahead.
We also recently adjusted the rates on that thing a little bit. It's not going to be a huge profit center for the town, but we can pay for its capital replacement costs, which I think is really the critical thing. So I don't think it's going to be a huge profit center for us, but it's a good thing to have.
Yeah. Britt, when you've got it up and operating, let me know. I want to be the first to use it.
Well, I will. When this thing is up and operating, XL Energy Partners actually offered to do like a ribbon cutting thing for us. But I will let you guys know, and I know you'll be ready to use it. Just don't get your car stuck over there, okay?
Yeah.
And then my last question, and I'll let us get out of here unless other people have stuff, is I saw some info about the microgrid, and I wondered if that's very intriguing to me. Can you fill us in on that, John?
Sure. It's really cool. It's been in the works for, I think, 70 bajillion years. I think it was built back in, like, I don't even know when it was built, but it's been sitting there at the
about a year and a
center
half ago.
Yeah. Okay, I just knew it was taking a while. So it's actually was switched on, and what it does basically, we have that huge generator at the community center because it's our emergency center for fires and when there's cold weather problems and things like that. And so it's able to run the community center too on battery. So basically it'll switch back and forth between the generator and the batteries. And it's a demonstration project for Excel, but it's a really cool one because it really built some resiliency in our area. And they're really motivated to help us with microgrids because they want to turn our power off more. That's basically the reason. So it was turned on, I want to say right before Christmas. We did have some initial problems because when it switches, they didn't install some kind of equipment that I don't know what it is. But basically what it does is it doesn't interrupt the power at the community center. So the power at the community center would switch off like very briefly, but the problem with that was it would reset the elevator. So there was a community member that got stuck in the elevator because when the elevator resets, it goes through this like process or whatever. So we had to get Excel out to fix that problem, and it is working now. The community center has just been kind of a little bit of a whack-a-mole problem thing. Like we went through the elevator thing, now we're doing the sewer pipes, and we'll just keep going. But in theory, that microgrid should make it much more resilient. And they're really interested in building more. There's been some interest in building one over at Wild Bear, at the new Wild Bear, that could help run that neighborhood over there. And we've also talked about one kind of at the bottom of Big Spring somewhere that could help kind of with that neighborhood. And that's been one of the things we've been talking about is could we build some resiliency into the different quadrants of town? So if we do lose power, we still have electric backup for town. It's a big project, but proof of concept wise up there, it works. So
awesome. That's good. And you know, at some point, you know, maybe we can tie that in with some renewable energy. You know, as that gets a little more developed, you know, we can use some of the W power that we have in our town and solar and be able to have that. And then I said I got one more thing. I saw here that you were going to be presenting the town-owned parcels presentation to the BOT at some point in early 2025. I just want to reiterate that we would also like to get that after it's complete. We can wait until after the BOT. That's fine.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're hoping probably February for them. We'll keep you updated, but if it can squeeze in time for the February meeting, we'll throw it on there. If not, I'll send it out and we'll still go over it in March more in depth. So either way, I think you'll be seeing that here within the next month or two.
Great.
Yep.
Anybody else have anything for our town staff?
Then I motion to adjourn.
Wait. Is there any other business? Okay. We'll accept that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Third.
All right. All in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Yep.
All righty. We will end this meeting at 8:43, and thank you guys for being flexible with the change to the virtual. So appreciate it.
Yeah, good luck at the community center.
We'll keep you updated.
Yep.
Brett,
Sounds
Brett,
really good there.
I'll email you my cell phone, Brett.
Yes, that would be
Yeah.
awesome. I'm so sorry about that.
That's okay. Talk soon.
All right. See
Bye.
you guys. Have a
Stay
good
warm.
one.
And John, you had early on, we were discussing when we went on the air, that remodel was, for the community center. So I'm would be 95% certain that the water and sewer has never changed. The whole old part of the school was just redone because of the roof caved in there and the gymnasium. So
Okay.
really, in a lot of ways, Scott Brunchen worked to get a whole lot of work more done and have insurance cover an awful lot of it. But really, the damage was actually just the roof of the gymnasium came down is really what the problem, So no, there
Okay.
probably was not infrastructure was not changed.
I've got like a worry in my stomach that it's a clay pipe issue, and we'll see what it is, I guess, but hopefully not.
Yeah, well, good luck.
Thank you. I appreciate everything you said tonight. Thank you very much.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, sounds good.